It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
So how can you stay consistent? What's something that you can do to make sure that you stay on the right path and on the right track? We got to listen to the fourth thing we wish that we would have realized earlier, is that money does not watch the news.
It's so important because everything I said about that inevitable wealth building journey is most of us get distracted. We're our own worst enemies. There's always been these behavioral studies. They show if you invested in the S&P 500, it consistently earns somewhere between 9 to 11% on a long-term historical basis. Yet when you look at the average investor, it's usually much less than half of that performance. And the reason is because we always go through the cycle of market emotions, meaning that we will think we're geniuses when markets are making money, but then when things get scary and the economy is going through its typical cycle of cleansing, we jump out because we're like, you know what, done with this. I'm not going to ride it out. I get out because I'm influenced by what's going on in the news. If it bleeds, it leads, is what the news media, they don't make their money off of your financial success. They make their money by keeping your eyes and your ears peeled on the fear-mongering that's going on TV. So be careful what motivates you and influences your behavior.
So let's see how good they can, because if politics and news and commentators, if those are the things that are influencing our decisions, let's see how good they are. How often do they point us in the right direction? Well, check out this headline from Financial Times. It says, "The risk of double-dip recession is rising." Now, we scrubbed all the dates off of this because we want you to think back in your financial journey. When do you remember the risk of a double-dip recession rising? When was that something that was alarming to you? Well, if you actually go look at when this headline came out, it was August 23rd of 2009. We know that the market hit its bottom of the Great Recession on March 9th of 2009. So here we are, a few months after that. If you look at the 3 years following when this article came out, the S&P 500 over that time period returned 37.6% over the next 3 years.
But you can realize how this plays out. In August of 2009, when the Financial Times came out, the risk of a double-dip recession is rising. We had just made it through the Great Recession, where 2008 was crushed. The first quarter of 2009, we had hit the bare bottom. Now we had been on this rapid increase. It probably started feeling better. And then here's the cold water from the Financial Times saying, whoa, don't get too excited. We actually could have a double dip recession. If you panicked and sold out at that point, you would have missed out on another 40% over the upcoming 3 years. Do not let the news media distract you from the wealth building journey.
But that was back in the Great Recession. Okay, maybe they got that wrong. But they get better. They get better over time. Well, check out this headline. This is from the Mercury News. It says, "The economist who predicted the busted housing bubble says another recession is coming." Well, if this guy, if he called the housing bubble, he must be in the know. He must know what he's doing. He must have this thing figured out. Well, if you look, this article actually came out in July of 2014. Well, if you think about the 3 years following July of 2014, the S&P 500 over that time period returned almost 25% over that next 3 years. It did not look like a recession came and actually hit the financial markets.
What I find interesting about this chart is if you look at 2014, we know now through the 2020 hindsight vision that 2015 was actually not a great year to be an investor, because that's when Europe got into some debt crisis. If you remember the pigs, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain all had debt crises, and it drove the stock market down in 2015. If you read the news cycle both in 2014, 2015, you'd be like, man, I'm going to wait until the coast is clear. But yet, look, it was a lot of volatility. Still, you'd have come out on the other side with that ever-expanding economy where, yes, you can still make money even when the headlines are pretty scary.
And so now let's look at one more. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This says, "Why soaring assets and low unemployment mean now is the time to start worrying." And this article actually came out in July of 2017. What I think is so interesting is if you look at the next 3 years after this headline came out, the S&P 500 still made 32%. And what's so interesting about this time period is we have fourth quarter of 18, where we know that the market dropped 20%. And then we have the entire COVID market downturn that fit inside of this. Even with those two drastic downturns, 3 years following this article, S&P 500 has still made 32% over that time period.
It's important to repeat, money doesn't watch the news. And I think if you were looking at practical application, is know what information is actionable versus non-actionable. A lot of this is just noise. It's not actually doing any good for you to hyper-focus on it. Focus on what you can control, which is your savings and investment rate, how you live your life, how you invest to make that money work for you so you don't have to, so you have a plan so that you don't have to work as hard as you get older. That's actually what is important, what you can control.
I love it, Brian, that you called it noise, because if you think about it, the noise never goes away. If you look at headlines all the way back from 2009, the last big recession that we came through, the last significant, long tenured market downturn, all the way up this mountain of worry, there were more headlines saying, recession, here it comes. Big banks are going to, here's soaring assets. Wall Street thinks a double dip. The noise will always be there no matter what market environment we're in. You have to train your brain to be a financial mutant that does not get distracted by that.
I've seen illustrations that will show you something negative in every single year we live in.
Yep.
I think it's look, the news cycle, they have to fill it. They have to fill all the newspapers and all the time on the TV shows with something. And as humans, the instinctual side is we remember the negative much more than the positive. So that's what they're going to focus on. Don't let that be the kryptonite that keeps you from building that long-term success.